Hey guys, Vulture here. I gotta get this done as quickly as possible because I got to edit SpongeBob number 11. I also gotta go try to record at least 2 videos in Mystery Mayhem. Anyways, hey, we're doing Owl House. I tried this before because the season finale of Season 2 is done. So I'll finish Season 1 and Season 2. Basically, I'll go through the characters, most of their major story arcs, and then I'll adjust the major events if I can get to them. So anyways, I tried this before, but I was too tired, so let's try it again. Alright, so basically in the beginning of the story, you have the Noseda family, which is basically a nurse practitioner is the mother. There was a father, but he died by an illness or by an accident. And then they have a daughter named Luce, who is the main character. And basically she lives in a fantasy kind of driven world. So whenever she kept acting out, the mother, when she's like 13 or something like that, she tries to send her to a more realistic camp, I think based on the school's particular request. That way she doesn't get expelled. This way she's more realistic on life. She loves snakes, by the way. And that's one of her last little stunts that got her in trouble. Basically, when she goes to get ready, she gets, she's given a book. She has a book that's called the Azura, the Good Witches. Basically, the concept of it is she goes in and basically her book gets taken by a witch that's from the Boiling Isles, or the Witch Realm, we'll call it. And basically she scavenges all these human materials to sell off to the market because most of the witch world knows about humans, but they never seen one because they don't have the portal to do it. And Ida Clawthorn is her last name, is the only one with a portal to the human realm, which is a door and a key to it. And then she has a house demon, which is basically, there's a whole bunch of different demons throughout the land and creatures, but the house demon known as Hootie, also known by his sister, Ida's sister, Hoot, or Hootzifer. And then we also have the pet, or whatever. He becomes the son to Ida at the end because of adoption, but is king, and he is basically, spoiler alert for the last few episodes, he is a titan, which is seen by the witch realm as a god, which is basically, he has all these powers, he grows to be a giant, and most of his race was hunted down because their blood is like super powerful and potent and can travel between dimensions. He also can seal a freaking godlike being known as the Collector, and the Collector is basically a child from the stars who came down trying to play, which ends up wreaking havoc, and his father ended up sealing him away in a mirror, which was hunted down, and he was released as a shadow form, and there has to be a Titan's blood, or there has to be a Titan to release him. But basically, I'm trying to think of all the characters. Luce basically learns responsibility, that she can't just care for herself, but she's got to care for the people around her. She gains more friends. She learns how to be a good witch and all that. Like her hero, King, he comes out thinking he's the king of demons, which technically he is, but he's seen as a god. But he starts lowering his expectations, but he does end up being what he wanted to be, but he only wants to be treated as a normal person. Like I said, he gets adopted by Ida, and but he also treats Luce as a big sister. And then basically his adventure is turned into a child that actually has a childhood that he wants to live. Hootie is basically just a house demon that was saved by Ida. When he was trying to get a hold of one of his snacks, he got twisted up, and Ida released him from such, and he followed her back into her owl house and basically became the entity protecting it. And Ida is basically, she's a wild witch who, in her childhood, was like the rascal of the family. Her mother, I don't remember exactly what she was, but her father was the craftsman for palisman, which palisman are basically staffs. They're like a power to a staff for witches to console the power a little bit stronger. And then I'm trying to think, they're also living beings and stuff. And then she does have a sister I already mentioned, which is Lilith, which is kind of like the one that wants to be popularized by her parents. But of course, Ida being Ida is like the black sheep. She's looked more favorably every time she does something more than Lilith. Which eventually they do be sisters, and like they try to be sisters. Then Lilith gets too jealous and gives her a curse, which is the owl curse, which stops, which makes her slowly turn into an owl beast, which attacks her father whenever she's in rage. And then every time she feels a strong emotion, she transforms into an owl beast. Eventually, Lilith contracts this, and she becomes an owl beast when she can hold it, but she kind of makes her emotions flat. That way she doesn't have the chance to do it. Ida, she basically starts being able to detach her limbs, including her head, and she starts slowly losing her magical ability to this curse. Lilith is basically, she tried to be her own person, but of course got outshined by Ida. Eventually, in their adulthood, she did become the head of one of the covens, which the covens are like the specialtiest, the master of all this entire type of magic. So basically, there's like fire magic and elemental magic and all that. Someone holds the highest rank for that. And basically, if you're a part of a coven, it means you are only, you get a sigil, I think it is, and you get stuck to just that kind of magic. But you can finite it and make it your own. And basically, you get employed by the like government / empire of that. I'm trying to think of all the heads. But of course, she eventually just wants to be a part of the family again, so she tries to join in and slowly gains back her childlike enthusiasm, and basically she becomes this researcher in the end. Their mother tries to come back. Their father comes back to give Ida like a, it's okay, it wasn't you, when he got scratched, and passes down how to make a palisman, which is their family trait. I'm trying to think. There's Gus, who is basically the same age as there's Willow and Gus, basically same age as Luce, but both of them have high potential in their particular magic. Gus has high illusionist abilities, which basically, if he has strong emotions, he can basically make reality look like super detailed, like it's still an illusion, but it's a lot more realistic than most. And the head of the illusionist comments on this, and he does have an hourglass that looks into this, that can see through an illusion, but he still grants Gus a proper good reward for being able to reach that kind of detail. And then Willow, she in high emotion, of course. She has the like natural like plant-like abilities, and whenever she gets angry or something, vines and all that just sprout out of nowhere, and she's able to control them at will. Let's see, that's most of the main childlike characters. There's a bully or two. The biggest character is Amity Blight, which basically the Blights are a giant industry family. Basically, they earned their name by building industry-leveled home security with abominations, which are basically goop creatures that can be controlled for task or protection, which the Blights are able to add gadgets and all that too. And I think the Abomatrons, which are the best. Basically, they're like Iron Men, meant for protection, but they all get bought out by the Empire to do whatever their task is, which is to hunt someone down or something. Basically, the entire Blight family is Alador, which is the father of them all. He's the one who creates most of the stuff. There's his wife, Odelia, which is basically the cold mother figure, basically a stepmother, but she's actually the mother of the family. And she is mostly the business side of things. She does have a few ideas here and there, but Alador is mostly the creative type. But it seems like, Alador, he cared for Odelia, but she's so cold that she kind of just let him and just became like a partner instead of an actual relationship. They have three kids. Their two oldest are twins. They're basically just the brats that just they're funny, they're nice and stuff, but it's just, they're like the pranksters. Basically, they're I'm trying to remember, the Weasley twins. That's what they are. And then they have the younger sister, which is Amity Blight, which is the same age as Willow, Gus, and Luce, and she basically tries to be like her parents and be in an abomination coven. And she does train under Lilith for some time. Then she meets Luce, and she bullies that group, but then eventually comes around to thinking there's some reason why she has this nature about her, and she slowly goes into that mindset. She used to be friends with Willow when they were kids, but of course, since they're high status, she had to drop Willow. She eventually starts falling for Luce, which Disney standards say that's not how it is. They're just best friends, but know that she eventually sees the pure nature and says, this is my ticket to have my own personality, my own push. And basically that's what it is she does get her into her own mindset. She does eventually gain Luce's attention, which Luce eventually tries to do it, but ask her out, but Amity beats her to it. Let's see. Alador is too busy and tired to really notice anything, where Odelia is kind of like the strict mother that lets them do nothing but what they're told. Let's see, the school, there's not really anything but the principal. The principal used to be the vice principal to the principal that was during Ida and Lilith and Odelia and Alador's time. Like, they're all the same age. I can't remember the head of the Abomination Coven, but he was also best friends with Alador back in school. Basically, the president at that time, the principal at that time told the now principal that he needs to find a way to redeem Ida, which, she pushes her into a program that gets her into a coven's eyesight, which she eventually does run into. Ida does meet Rain during this, and Rain is one of the highest class nerds that does, he is best in B.O.L.T magic, which is basically musical magic. He does eventually become the head of that coven. Basically, they're like inseparable. They do date, but of course, Ida's trying to keep to herself. She doesn't want to let the Owl Beast out. So eventually, it builds up and has him walk away. Well, they walk away because it's non-binary, I believe. But they walk away after some time. They try to help, but of course, Ida pushes them away, like her parents and sister. And Ida goes on her own adventures, discovering King as an egg when he was protected by his father when he finally sealed the Collector. Which, by the way, another thing is the necklace that he carried was actually was a protection medallion that protected him from being actually visually seen by the Collector. He was able to be sensed, but it gave him a cloak. We went through most of them. Oh yeah, Darius was the coven head of the abominations, and I think it's basically just like, I'm trying to remember it all. I'm trying to remember all the big characters. I think I got most of them. The next two biggest would be, of course, Golden Guard. Actually, no, we do have Kikimora. Kikimora is like the lapdog of all the Coven and Empire, and she tries to go for higher, but every time she does something, she ends up putting herself in a hole, and eventually she just gets degraded of it. Eventually, the Golden Guard, also known as Hunter, is the nephew to the Emperor, and he is actually seen later in spoilers, is he's a clone of the brother of the Emperor, and he just kept getting recloned, and that's what the old Gold Guards were, and they just kept betraying him because the Emperor had plans for all of Blanley Isles and all the witches, and yeah, basically he's just a copycat of all of those people. And then, of course, the last thing is, of course, Emperor Belos, which is basically a human that wandered into the Boiling Isles realm and found out about the witches, and he became a witch hunter. And his brother ended up trying to protect him, I believe, and he ended up killing him to, you know, get out of his way. And he didn't want to lose his brother completely, so he kept cloning him into being an obedient person, but of course he kept having to kill him. He devours talisman energy and whatever magical essence he can. This eventually warps his body. This also gives him life-extending powers. He finds the Collector to actually gain other spells and other ways to kill all the witches because he wants to rid the entire existence of witches, which of course he makes sigils, which actually ends up being the mark that's supposed to go into a spell that the Collector gave him, which drains all magic from their being, which also comes along with their life energy. So in the end, so basically it's just, you know, Luce arrives, makes a few friends, Amity changes eventually from being a bully to a friend. Some of the covens are trying to avoid wild witches, because wild witches are people that don't have a coven, and they can explore multiple different teachings of magic. And if you're caught and brought to the Emperor, he normally petrifies you and turns you to stone. And those are people that want to avoid the coven ideals. And then it just gets into the Emperor starts doing stuff about it. He starts hunting down people that are actually getting in the way of what he wants, which is the doorway back to the human world, which Ida had. And once he has it, it ends up being found out that he doesn't have the key. He doesn't have the doorway, which ends up getting blown to smithereens, but he rebuilds it. He just needs the key, which has Titan blood in it. And then, basically the relationship between Luce and Amity starts. Explore some of the characters. We learn some of the backgrounds. The biggest thing, of course, is whenever they come together as a team. And when they go to actually stop it, because Ida's Owl Beast curse is actually anti-magic. So she can corrupt magic, but of course the being attached to it can very well die. And of course, Ida not having magic, it doesn't do anything to her exactly. But of course, when they're trying to stop the draining spell, it ends up having Ida lose her hand. I believe most of the heads are completely dead because they're the first few people to lose their magic because they're the strongest. So I believe Rain and others may be dead, but we don't know for sure. But the very end is basically the Collector gets released by King, because Belos ends up betraying the Collector, trying to go back to the human world with what little Titan blood he has. This making him come back as a actual physical form, basically killing Belos. It starts and trying to, like, he stops the spell, so most people are probably still alive. But he starts playing with the reality, like he's able to warp reality to what he wants. And then all the kids tried to escape. But he's able to get a hold of King, who promised him to play with him when it was all said and done. And everyone gets brought back to the human realm, which I will also bring up. Two things from the human realm. There is a creature from the Boiling Isles known as a it's not a siren, but basically they're able to eat the magical essence and be able to transform into whatever form they want. And of course, one gets into the human realm, turns into loose, but of course starts losing their form, and is revealed to Luce's mom that it's of the creature. And then I'm trying to think. And her name's V, I think, for like 5. Like, she's the 5th creature. Because most of the Coven was trying to use them for draining wild witches and stuff. And people that were trying to go against the Coven. And then the other one was basically Luce tries to do a temporary portal to go back to the human realm. Which ends up being a mirror dimension, basically looking into other dimensions. It's basically like, I think, Madam Web, where the Watcher is probably the closest things. You can see into every dimension you want, but of course you can't travel into them. And you can interact if you actually go into a reflective surface. And the Collector gets trapped in there, in all mirrors of worlds. So basically a Doctor Who Child of the Corn kind of situation, where that little girl gets stuck on all mirrors, and you can barely see them in the corner of your eye if you just look close enough. That's basically the end of it. Is basically just people become the people they are. They go against the Coven. But anyways, that's it for this video. I have to go try to record whatever I can. Well, probably not going to record much else in one video now, because I actually do have like half an hour until I have to go to work. So, sorry about Season 4 rewriting not being done. I'm still like, let's see here. I have episode 5 done right now. That's why Owl House is going to be coming out today. So, next weekend I'll have the rewriting Season 4. It's looking pretty promising. I'm sorry about it if it's not really that hyped as I thought it would be, but yeah, we got Season 4 almost done. And then of course, I don't know, I think we're maybe halfway through SpongeBob. I don't fully know how many chapters are in Scooby-Doo Mystery Mayhem. But I do know I'm on the 3rd mystery. Which we'll see real quick. And then I'll stop this video. How many freaking chapters, man? So it's looking like there's 6 chapters to the game. 6. Well, actually, no, it looks like there's only 5. Yeah, it looks like there's 5 chapters. I'm on chapter 3, The Wild West. I shouldn't be too long on that one. So we're close. But, you know, it's gonna be a minute. So I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.